Padre Pio would sometimes advise his spiritual children to do something they thought illogical, to do something contrary to their will. Today's story is about a difficult decision, to obey or not to obey. Welcome to our YouTube channel following Padre Pio, about the Capuchin monk, mystic, and miracle worker whose intercession is still very powerful and active today. We publish videos 3 times a week on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so follow us to find out more about the life of this fascinating saint, and you will be amazed at what Padre Pio can do for you, a family member, or a friend. This story is about a young woman, Cleonice Morcaldi, who faced a difficult decision. But before we get into the story, let me just give a short introduction about Cleonice for those who are not yet familiar with her. Cleonice Morcaldi was born in San Giovanni Rotondo on January 22, 1904, the same day Padre Pio took his religious vows in Morcone after completing his novitiate. She met Padre Pio in 1920 when she was 16 years old, before taking the exam to become a teacher. From that moment on, she found in the priest a strong fatherly guide, but also a motherly figure, because she would soon become an orphan. Her virtues and filial devotion elicited Padre Pio's affection for her. Under his supervision, Miss Cleonice learned to meditate, pray, and love Jesus and the Virgin Mary. In the hands of the crucified Capuchin, she made vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience that she renewed every year on the day of the Immaculate Conception. She lived as a consecrated laywoman. Cleonice diligently wrote down some of the spiritual answers she received from Padre Pio. She also prepared texts for religious theater plays performed to raise funds for charity and for the Casa Sollievo della Sofferenza hospital. After the death of Padre Pio, she spread all she had learned from him, welcoming people from all classes and places into her home. Cleonice died on February 23, 1987, leaving behind her a collection of testimonies and a diary. However, the relationship between the two was not always easy. When she first applied for a teaching job, she went through a lot of trouble, which she talks about in her diary. Unfortunately, the time has come for me to get in touch with the world, to look for my place under the sun. There were few vacancies and many competitors. An excellent diploma was not enough. A recommendation from someone important was also needed. So my mom decided to take out a loan to help with the expenses. My brother-in-law was also willing to help. This is what Padre Pio said: pray for the best. After my poor mother's anxieties and sighs, came my appointment to teach in rural schools as a first step. It was a day of great joy for the whole family and interested relatives. I took my nomination and ran to the monastery to thank the Father. I found him in the sacristy, about to go up to the cloister. I kissed his hand and said, "Look, Father, the appointment has come. I got the job. Thank you so much for your prayers. Thank Jesus for me." The priest took the papers from my hand and read them. Then, without many words, he said to me, "Go, refuse this vacancy as soon as possible. Do you want to go to a small town where not even a bus passes? Refuse, the Lord will give." He put his hand on my head and walked away. Only God knows the state I was in. I did not know what to say, what to think, what to do. I didn't even know if I should go home with that answer. It was a real cold shower. What would my mother and my relatives say after so many prayers, recommendations, and sacrifices? Full of sadness and uncertainty, I returned home, begging the Blessed Virgin to come to my aid. What should I do, my God? How to face this storm? How should I behave? I want to be obedient to the Father regardless of punishment, even at the cost of sacrificing my soul and my body. But I also didn't want to make my mom suffer even more, who has already suffered so much. You alone, my God, can reconcile contraries and opposites. When I got home, I didn't have the strength to go up the stairs. I heard the joyous shouts of my mother and relatives, which contrasted with the pain in my soul. I don't want to describe here the reactions to Padre Pio's response, not even the storm that broke over me as I chose to obey the priest. To get over with, I went to the attic on the roof where I always took refuge. Pain pierced my heart, my mother's great misery. I then opened the Gospel and read the following passage. He who loves his father and mother more than me is not worthy of me. I strengthened myself by following Padre Pio's advice. I looked at the monastery, which I could see clearly from the roof, and I thanked the Most High for sending us Padre Pio. Then, more than ever, he seemed great to me, more than a prophet, more than a saint, God's and our friend. It was as if he were Jesus himself dressed as a monk, who returned to live among the sons of Adam. Great art thou, O Lord, my refuge and my comfort, my asylum and my fortress. When the director of studies transferred my nomination to another graduate from my hometown, my relatives became even angrier with me. My defense was silence. They would not look at me or speak to me. But their behavior changed when they learned about the problems that befell the poor lady who had accepted the position I had refused. They then realized who Padre Pio was. Now, it's not written in the book for reasons of decency, but the girl in question was raped on her way to work. In other words, Padre Pio saved Cleonice from that terrible fate. Let's continue. The director of the schools in the area entrusted me with an afternoon school for adults, which was next to my house. My family, somewhat humiliated, began to talk to me and apologize for their former behavior. You are great, O Lord. I called on you on the day of trouble, and you helped me immediately. You have always been my refuge and help. Would Padre Pio be involved in this? When I asked him, he said, remember that he who obeys does not make a mistake. He who obeys sings victory. End of testimony. This story makes me recall plenty of people from the Bible that God puts in difficult situations. Abraham comes to mind, as does Noah, Moses, even Mary and the apostles. They were all in situations where they had to choose to obey or not to obey God. We see that God rewards those that obey him. Cleonice was obedient to Padre Pio and got a job right next to her house. He who obeys God sings victory. Thank you for listening. Please give our channel a boost by continuing to watch another video. This will help with the YouTube algorithm. I have recommended some videos especially chosen for you on the end screen. Or just click on one of the links in the description below for a full selection of great Padre Pio stories. And don't forget to enroll your Mass intentions for next Friday's Padre Pio Holy Mass. Just click the link in the description below. And stay tuned for the next video on the life of Padre Pio.